Hello, this is Dr. Kamani, licensed clinical psychologist. Welcome to Sis, Get Your Money Right so you can leave that toxic job. So, we're going to talk about one of the main barriers that I've heard, that Dr. Rosché has heard, I've experienced in relation to leaving a toxic job. It's often very challenging because we're stuck by a number of things. And the main issue that I hear is being stuck due to financial concerns. So being stuck of, okay, how am I going to get money to have in terms of replacement income? And or you might have experiences where people are projecting their own fears about money onto you as well. Okay. So, I've been talking on YouTube for over a year about, toxic jobs, healing from toxic jobs for Black women. And so now I'm going to have a little bit more practical information for Black women to actually show you how to get out of a toxic job. Okay. So part of it is the mindset in terms of the healing. The other part is the practical stuff in terms of money. So we're going to talk about money issues and how to get your money right so you can leave a toxic job. So I am going to share with you Dr. Rosché Brown, and she actually helped me get my money right so that I could leave that toxic job that I was in. So, Dr. Rosché, if you could briefly introduce yourself, and then we'll go right into the questions.
Will do. So thank you, Dr. Kamani. I am Dr. Rosché Brown. I'm also known as the Doctor of Rethinking because I help people to remix their thinking so they can make money, manage their money, and multiply their money. So if that's you, if you're a person who knows you want to make some money, I want to go ahead and see ones in the chat. Let me know that you're a person who wants to make money, but also letting me know that you want to manage your money, meaning keeping some of the money that you actually make in a savings account, having a plan for it, having some direction around your money, then definitely put some twos in the chat. And if you want to multiply your money, that means have your money make money babies. Then I want you to put some threes inside of the chat. But I am actually a licensed clinical psychologist. About 8 years ago, I added the component of finances to it because I recognize when it comes down to our finances, we have a lot of trauma around finances, and recognizing a lot of our depression and our anxiety is really around like our financial concerns and not really having the practical steps on how to manage them, as well as just having some money mindset blockages that can really be keeping us from our greater goals in our lives.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Rosché. And just again, I work with Dr. Rosché to help me get out of my toxic job. And I remember when I would meet with her, we talked about a lot of my money trauma issues and clearing that out. And she kept asking me, okay, so how much money would be good enough for you to have before you leave? She kept saying that. And I was so scared, like, I don't know. She's like, I think you're gonna be pretty good if you leave. You're gonna be okay. And
Right.
so again, I wanted to bring this information to Black women about what we have to support you with. Okay, so the mindset. So Dr. Rosché and I are collaborating for a masterclass coming up next month, November 8th and 9th. So the masterclass is Get Your Money Right so you can leave that toxic job. So early registration is happening now. It ends November 1st. I will put the information to register on the screen shortly. So get your ticket for early registration because after November 1st, it's going up. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit in terms of, some of the financial concerns in relation to leaving a toxic job and how to get yourself ready. And then we're going to talk a lot more about the masterclass in terms of why it's important for you to be a part of this masterclass if you are thinking about leaving your toxic job or you're just ready. Okay. So we're going to go right into the questions. And my fabulous VA, Marissa's here. Thank you, Marissa. So here's information about the toxic job, the masterclass, excuse me. So the masterclass again is Get Your Money Right to Leave a Toxic Job. So that's the registration information right there, November 8th and 9th. And it's going to be 7 p.m. It's going to be 2 days. So 7 p.m. Eastern, 7 to 8:30 p.m. Okay. So Dr. Rosché, I know that, as clinical psychologists and just people that we know, other Black women we know, family, friends, associates, when they talk about toxic jobs, because so many Black women are really struggling in toxic jobs. And they've talked about, I hate this job. I dread it. I'm just like, ugh, I hate it. but I want to get out. I'm scared because I need to pay
Hmm.
my bills, right? Or
Yeah.
am I going to end up homeless? Like all these fears come up. So can
Hmm.
you share a little bit in terms of what are these fears and where do you think they come from? These fears, these expressed fears.
Yeah. I think that, we were born to actually like well, not born, like we were raised, to believe that, you get older, you get a degree, you get a good job with
Mhm.
benefits, right? Like a good job, right?
Right.
Is that job that gives you benefits and you stay there for 40
Yeah.
years. You know what I mean? Like you just stay there
Mm,
forever because a
mm.
lot of our parents stayed at their jobs for like, many, many years.
Yes.
So we feel really fearful, I think, around like leaving,
Mhm.
especially because we assume that we're not going to be able to get a better job, right?
Mhm.
Or we're
Mhm.
maybe like we're fearful and we haven't seen a lot of successful people ever leave their jobs, or
Mhm.
where we haven't seen a lot of people be successful when it comes down to business. So a
Mhm.
lot of that makes us feel like really fearful around like what is possible for us. And I
Yes.
think that that's just our programming, right? We've just been
Absolutely.
wired a certain way to believe that it's not possible to actually leave. And it's interesting because I don't know why I'm liking this to like leaving a relationship that's toxic, right? Because
It
the
is. It's
same
very similar.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
can recall a time I went to a training, and in this training, it was about like leaving a toxic relationship. And it
Mhm.
ended up asking, like, how long did it take you before you left this toxic relationship? Right? Was it 5 years? Was it 10 years? And what were some of the reasons that kept you there? And
Mm.
a lot of times reasons was, I don't think I'm going to find anything better. That's
Oh.
like a huge, huge reason. Like, I'm not going to be
Mm.
able to find a better relationship, right? Same
I'll just
thing.
stay here. I'll just stay stuck.
I'll just stay stuck, right? It's already familiar to me.
Yeah.
I already know how to do this. Is
Yeah.
there anything better than this? Like I've already got used to it. And sometimes we can get used to toxicity. It
Mhm.
could be such a
Mhm.
part of our makeup that we just feel like it's something
Mhm.
that we should do.
Mhm.
Another thing is kids. Oh my God, I have kids. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so now you're living for them, right? And so
Mhm.
you're like, oh my God, I'm living for them. They need these benefits. They need
Mhm.
this finances that I'm bringing
Mhm.
in. If
Mhm.
I leave this job, what am I going to do about them? And that kind of
Mhm.
keeps us inside of these things. Of course, we get afraid of our bills, right? We have expenses, potentially even some debt that has started to happen, and we don't know what to do. Like, how do
Yeah.
I manage my money in order to like really leave my job? So I think a
Yeah.
lot of those things keep us in a place of stuckness,
Yes.
where we get paralyzed, right? And if we think about anxiety, anxiety only makes us have millions of thoughts about the worst case scenario. That's all
Absolutely.
we think of, right? We only think worst case scenario.
Yes.
And depression keeps us stuck, right? Because we can't even think about possibilities. Like, what is the
Mhm.
next level that could happen for us? It's very hard for us to think of those things. And so I think that part of our lives, it's more about like saying, hey, what are the possibilities? Allowing myself to like
Mhm.
slow down. What
Yeah.
could be the other possibility? What could be another story that I can tell myself outside
Yeah.
of this worst case scenario story? And I
Exactly.
believe that that's what ultimately keeps us stuck is the narrative that's kind of rolling around in our head about it.
Yeah, yeah. And you're right in terms of the worst case scenario. I see somebody saying that's so right. Is that, we've been taught in terms of social programming that if you don't
Hmm.
have this so-called good job, and I say good
Hmm.
job because any
Yeah,
job that's killing you is not really a good job, or
that
any job
part.
with so-called good benefits, and you using your health benefits to go to the doctor more because of the stress of the job, that's not good
Huh.
benefits, right? So,
Yeah.
but I think as Black women, we've been told so much. You get that degree, you get all these different things, you get right. And I think a lot of us have done those things, and we get in situations, we get into toxic jobs and become very disillusioned because that's not what we work so hard for. That's the one thing. The second thing is we start thinking the worst case scenario, like you just talked about, right? So that
Hmm. Hmm.
catastrophizing. Oh my God, if I leave this job, I'm gonna be homeless. It's like this to that. It's no in between. It's just that's automatically going to happen, even though if we looked at the data, like we talk about a lot in therapy, when you look at the data,
Yeah.
there's nothing to confirm that, right? The fact that you have your current job, the fact that you have skills and talents you can take someplace else, right? But that narrative that, oh my God, I will never be able to get another job. I will never be able to find other money. And the narrative is reinforced many times by people from a different generation. So our parents,
Yes.
right?
Ooh,
So
yes.
our parents, ingrained in us, you stay at that job until you retire, right?
Yes.
And I've
Yeah.
talked about that. I didn't tell my mother for many months, after I left my job, because I knew how she felt about it, but I knew I
Yeah.
had to do what was best for me and my family. And then the other
Hmm.
layer you added in, Dr. Rosché, that I hear a lot from Black women is I have kids, right?
Yeah.
So I know as mothers, we're very responsible for our kids, and then that fear comes in there, right? So I think what
Hmm.
happens, Dr. Rosché, is that because of all these things, that as Black women, we say to ourselves, I'm going to try to stick it out until, I'm going to try to hang in there until I retire, until my kid
Hmm.
graduates from high school or college. I'm just going to try to stick it out. Okay.
Hmm.
So, can you share what is the psychological impact of Black women trying to stick it out or trying to hang in there at a toxic job?
Yeah, I mean, so we can talk about the psychological concerns, of course, right? Like sticking it out, right? Like is going to make your depression even worse, right?
Yes.
Anytime that we're not acknowledging what our emotions are and we're not figuring out a way to heal them, then we're just going to make them worse. We're going to suffer longer, right? So that's from a
Mhm.
psychological perspective. But we
Mhm.
also recognize that psychologically, if something's going wrong physically, things also happen. So from the physiological standpoint, like we have all this toxicity inside of our bodies,
Yeah.
right? That's going to lead to like, our stress hormone kicking up, right? Cortisol levels like being extremely high.
Yeah.
Cortisol levels being high mean you're going to be overweight. So watch, that's probably one of your signs that you in a toxic job, being overweight, eating the wrong thing.
Emotional
On top of
eating.
that can lead to ulcers and all other stressful things too.
Yes. Yes.
And so you want to be very careful with that. Like, what other like stressors are you, when you're holding all these stressors, how are they impacting you? Right. That can
Mhm.
even impact your relationship, even a
Mhm.
relationship with your spouse or your partner,
Mhm. Mhm.
because you're coming home. Like we understand that in psychology, we call them defense mechanisms.
Mhm.
And one defense mechanism that is extremely prevalent, I feel like when it comes down to toxic jobs is
Mhm.
displacement,
Hmm.
right? So like you mad at your boss, but instead of like, going off on your boss, you going off on your spouse,
Right.
right? Or maybe you going off on your off on your kids, because you're handling it's so much stress and you feel like such a lack of control at your job that you may
Yeah.
be overly exerting control in your relationship and in your household. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Which is causing more toxicity to come there, right? So
Mhm.
you're allowing that toxicity from job to also be, intervening in other relationships that you have.
Yeah.
On top of that, you feel exhausted. Oftentimes people feel you're just tired. You
Yeah.
have no energy or no capacity, no caring, no kindness, no compassion, no love for anybody else because
Like
you've
you
been
don't be
given
bothered.
everything that you got at this
Right.
job that's not giving you nothing.
Exactly.
You
Right.
know, so I think all of those things really impact it.
Yeah. Excuse me. So you're giving your all to a place that's trying to harm you. And then those people that you love, you're displacing that anger, that frustration onto them. Right. And so when you talk about
Yes.
that being in a toxic job can exacerbate feelings of depression, anxiety. And unfortunately, we've even seen situations where people have thoughts of harming themselves. Right. So in that sense of helplessness.
Yeah.
So it's very, very serious. So, Dr. Roche, how would you or what would you say to Black women in terms of getting unstuck from that fear in terms of finances so that they can leave that toxic job? What would you say? How can we get unstuck?
Yeah. So, something that you mentioned like early on, right, is like I had to tell you, like, hey, you're going to be fine,
Yeah,
which means that, we need to slow down and have somebody else to just let us know, like, we're going to be okay,
yeah,
because a lot of times we're not looking at the data, like you were mentioning.
true.
We're not looking at like, okay, the numbers say that this is going to be fine. Like, you're going to
Yeah,
make enough money
yes,
if you were to leave, right? Like
yeah.
you're going to be okay, but we're not slowing down. And so it's like, it makes me think of like being reactive versus responsive, right?
Mm,
Reactiveness is allowing our emotional mind, right? Like
mhm,
to take over and we're not able to really even like look at the facts. Like our feelings are overcoming the facts.
mhm,
When if we slow down, we can be more responsive.
mhm.
Hey, let me look at both of my minds, the emotional part of my mind and the logical piece of my mind. And
Yes.
when we're able to consult both parts of ourselves, emotional mind and logical mind, we get the wise mind. Wisdom
Mhm,
comes from
mhm.
there. you know?
Mhm.
And I think sometimes we just have to slow down. Like that's what mindfulness is. It gives you opportunity to just like slow down, become mindful of what really is happening right now. What are my needs right now? And
Mhm.
how can I find another way to meet them? Like this is not the only way for me to meet my needs, right? It has been for many, many years, but it doesn't have to be continuously the only way to meet needs. I'm to really
Yes.
think about, hey, what other way can I meet needs?
Yeah. So, what other ways can we meet the needs, right? And the reality testing is so important. So, being able to talk to someone who's knowledgeable about finances, about where are you currently with your finances, reassure you because they're looking at the money, right? We haven't been looking at the money, but the importance of looking at your money with
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's in finances who can tell you based upon the information, you're going to be okay, right? So, I just want to share a little bit with
Yeah.
the audience that when I was working with Dr. Rosché, I was so anxious about, am I going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? And she was like, what are the numbers, right? And she went down, she was working with me with the numbers. We went through the numbers. And in terms of being okay, how I was able to transition and replace my income was that I thought about, okay, I'm a psychologist. What are the skills that I can utilize that I had at that previous
Mm-hmm.
job? What are the skills that I can
Yeah.
pivot and utilize and make money? So that was me doing therapy. Okay. So
Yeah.
the suggestion for anyone watching this is as you're thinking about the toxic job you have, what are the current skills that you have that you can do that somewhere else? You can find another job. You could start doing this on your own. So you do have those skills. So Dr. Rosché, I because I've appreciated so much that you've taught me. Like you've helped me pay off one credit card. I'm on my road to paying off another one. So yes, girl. So, I was like, you know what? I really think that because so many Black women are talking about they hate their jobs and their job is dominating their lives. And I said, you know
Mhm.
what? I'm talking about how to help your healing, but part of the healing is getting out, right? And
Yeah.
so I want to
Yeah.
tell you how to get out. So then I approached you and I said, hey,
Yes.
can we do a masterclass together where we deal with the
Yeah.
financial mind trash, right? But then the actual, this is what you
Yeah.
can do to get out. So let's talk a little bit about the masterclass, right? So as I mentioned to
Yes.
the
Yeah.
audience, the masterclass is next month, November 8th and 9th. So again, information about the masterclass is right there on the screen. It'll also be in the description section. So the masterclass really talks to Black women. This is for Black women about these are the things that you can do to help you get your money right so that you can leave. So maybe we could talk a little bit in terms of what are some of the things that we're going to be covering in the masterclass.
Mhm. Yeah. So, so there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to cover. It's going to be amazing, y'all. Just like, just let me tell you that. But, one thing is that we're going to talk about like looking at your numbers, right? Which already causes anxiety to even look at like where did you spend? Where's your money going, right? How much money is coming in? So we're going to talk about like, how do we go about that process?
Mhm.
How do we overcome our anxiety in order to like actually like look at our numbers, because
Yes,
I tell people that they love math. I mean, people hate math, but they love money,
right.
right? Like it's something about numbers for us that we
Yes.
all have all this anxiety around because we hated math and as child as in our childhood. But what we want to understand is like we want to look at these numbers. Like if we look at the numbers, we can understand what's going on. We can look at what are our goals, and so we even make a timeline. Once we actually know what the numbers are, we can say, it makes sense for you to leave tomorrow. Maybe not, right?
Yeah.
But what if we made a plan that, 3 months from now, this is what you need to do. This is how you may need to cut back your spending. This is how much money you need to make. This is how you were talking about understanding your skill sets
Mhm.
from, that you're using at your job and utilizing it for your business, right?
Mhm.
We're going to cover that. We're going to cover, like, I call it your price tag. What are your T, talents? What are your A, abilities? What are your G, your gifts, right? And how are your talents, abilities, and gifts able to be monetized so you'll be able to like use that for the future?
Yeah.
so you can make enough money, right? How do we get all that started? So while you're at your job, you can have a different perspective. Hey,
Hmm.
I'm using this job to just fund my business.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean? And so we can have a
That's right.
plan for that. And so 3 months from now, we'll get like a plan. Like if you feel like you need to leave tomorrow, we'll figure out a plan for you. We'll tell you what you need to do so you can have some finances for that. If you need to leave in 3 months, we'll have a timeline for that. What does that look like? What are you feeling right now that will make sense for 3 months? What
Hmm.
about 6 months? What about 1 year? So we're going to create like a whole entire timeline financially, so you can plan for your future.
Yeah.
There's this is I think it's a book. It's called like your live out your future self now. And ultimately what it means is that we need a vision. We need a vision of what our future self is going to look like. And so
Hmm.
sometimes we're fearful because we it's the unknown. We don't know what our future is going to look like,
True.
but if we can take the time to like build out like what is our future?
Yeah.
What do we see in our future? And
Yeah.
allow that future self to guide our current decision making,
Yes.
right? And then we can reframe all that past trauma, right? We'll
Hmm.
reframe the past trauma so we can move forward. And so that's what we're really going to cover as we are doing the masterclass. We're going to understand the timeline. We're going to understand the numbers. We're going to understand your tags, the talents and abilities and skills that we're going to be able to use for the future. And we're really going to take all of that and give you like a blueprint on how to move forward.
Absolutely. So by being in the master class, you may come in with same issues that I did. I had some money issues, I had some money hangups, right? I didn't even like to look at my money, which was terrible, right? Because if you don't look at your money, then you don't really know where you are at, right? So you're going to
Yeah.
be up close and personal with your money, and you're going to create a timeline based upon when you have decided that you want to go. Okay. So that's the benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as you said too, Dr. Rosché, is learning how to replace your income when you
Mm-hmm.
leave, right? So as you are
Yeah.
getting prepared to leave, as I say to Black women, I'm not here to convince anybody to leave a toxic job. If you want to stay there, that's up to you, okay? I'm here to talk to Black
Right.
women who are ready to leave or trying to get out, okay? So when you think about that, you have to be mindful of, okay, what is my timeline? Think for yourself. Check in with yourself, like Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Rosché said.
Yeah.
Pause and check in with yourself. Okay, how long can I withstand this? My hope is that you're not saying to retirement or to your child graduates. Okay,
Yeah.
be mindful of yourself and the signs that you are being impacted by this toxic job. And think about, okay, so if I want to leave, what is it that I need to start doing? Okay, so we're not telling anybody to immediately leave your job unless you're experiencing immediate psychological or physical harm. If that's happening, you got to go.
Yes.
Okay, but if not,
Yes.
we're talking about, okay, let's come up with a plan. And once you have a plan, I'm telling you, once you have a plan, you will feel so much better. You really will. Because at first you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking, I want to get out, but I can't. Okay. Then you're thinking, okay, I want to get out. Can I? And then when you are
Right.
working with somebody that helps you say, you can really do this, you're good, then you're like,
Yeah.
okay, then what am I doing here? What am I doing here? So
Yeah.
it helps you. Yes, yes, yes. And Dr. Rosché, I think we also talked about, I know when you and I work together and in the master class,
Mm-hmm.
a major issue that people talk about is I don't want to lose my retirement income that I've already invested in this job. So can you talk a little
Yeah.
bit in terms of how we're going to address that or how you're going to speak on that during the master class?
Yes. I mean, there's other options for your retirement. It's not just your job. I know that's crazy, huh? Right? Like I think that we only understand our retirement based on our job. And so that means that we just need to be more educated. How do 401ks work? How do 403bs work? And so we're going to discuss that. How does an annuity or an IRA, what do I do with that money when I leave my job? So like, helping you guys see that there's other options,
Mhm.
other things that you can roll your money over into that can still make you money and also be protected from the stock market loss. So I want to be able to explain that to you guys. How do you maybe, create a supplemental retirement for yourself? So I want to explain that. Like, how can you have your own life insurance? So I want to help you guys understand that, like developing those benefits that, you guys are afraid, are going to go away. at this point. So we want to really just like kind of create a plan, understanding like how taxes work, how to understand how inflation is going to impact your money. So I'm going to actually, go through all of those things as well as when we're on the master class and figure out like, well, how much money that when you're making money, how much money should be going towards that retirement. So I really want to like, go through that, help you guys like, demystify, all these fears around it as if you're not able to understand it. I'm going to break it down into its simplest terms. So you recognize like you can do this. This is possible for you. And it's something that you can manage even on your own.
Yeah. And let me say this, if I could get it, you can get it too. Right. So again,
you
were talking to me in like simple, like, cause I was like, I had so much anxiety. So she was able to kind of break it down for me multiple times so I can understand it. Okay. So you mentioned, Dr. Rosché, benefits. Can you speak to that? Because not having an income and the fear of loss of benefits, that is something like the benefits thing. It's like a mind thing, right? So can you talk in terms of, and I've heard you say it, can you speak a little bit more in terms of benefits and how the masterclass might be able to help Black women who are concerned about benefits, particularly if they have children, or other people, in their family, and they're like the primary one with the benefits. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So, I think that a lot of us think that benefits are expensive, right? Because we're so used to our jobs taking care of it for us. And so we have to understand that there's other options regarding our benefits. And so I'm going to break that down in the master class as to like, how to understand your health benefits, what health benefits may you end up getting, how much might that cost, right? Because we assume that it's going to cost us thousands of dollars, right? But it may not actually cost you that. So I want to be able to like break that down for you and help you understand like, no, it's not going to cost that much. It's very doable for you to end up having those health benefits. It's going to be very doable for you to understand like, having other additional benefits. Like I said, like life insurance and retirement that also is usually covered by your job, like that you have the option to do it. If you recognize you bring in $10,000, but we create a plan and say, hey, this is the way that you can bring in $10,000, right? You can bring in 15,000, 20,000. Then you're going to be like, okay, I can definitely cover my benefits. Understanding how to have a business and what does that look like to have your own business, and understanding like, how good it's going to feel for you to have relief, right? And have freedom, right? Like it's going to be that relief and that freedom. You know what I mean?
Dread.
Yes. I mean, I'm going to talk about shoulder tension. It's so interesting that people are holding a lot in their shoulders and having so much anxiety and muscle tension. But just when you leave, you be like, whew, I'm good. Right. I want you to feel that. You don't even know what it feels like because you're living it right now. But what would it feel like to feel free? You know what I mean? Like we want to like talk about what freedom is going to feel like. And so I want you guys to be able to experience freedom,
Yes. And let me speak too about the health insurance issue, because when I knew that I was going to go, like I knew that. So when I knew I was going to go, I was more focused on the replacement income. And I was like, I'll be able to get the benefits and COBRA, like all that kind of stuff. I think, let me tell you, and let me say this too. This is why it's so important to prepare and get ready, because you need to be prepared for things happening immediately. Okay. So I said, I told the audience before that I work for the second largest school district in the nation. And when I tell you, by the time I found out about my benefits, like they notified me, the benefits are already over. Right. So they sent me a letter. Your benefits are going to be are cut off, but it was dated a long time ago. So my benefits had already been cut off. Right. So that's why it's so important, Black women. If you're preparing to leave, and part of the masterclass talks about getting that exit plan together. Part of that exit plan is start researching, okay, when you leave that job, when do the benefits cut off? And how soon can you have your benefits kick in? Okay. So please be prepared for that, because that was some shady stuff. I'm like, you just sent me the letter, but it's past the time the benefits have already been cut off. Okay. So
Yep.
be
Yeah.
mindful of that. The other thing I want to say is we're also going to talk in the masterclass about how to create like a side hustle, or if you want to have your own business, because
Mhm.
we've talked about this too, Dr. Rosché, how it's important to have multiple streams of income. So even if
Yes.
you choose to have another 9 to 5, my hope is that you don't transition to another toxic job. So we'll talk about some ways to identify some signs that this is a good place or this is not such a good place, okay? Because we don't want you to end up in another
Mhm.
toxic job. So if you choose to go to another 9 to 5, we also want to support you in having multiple streams of income. You don't want to rely all your eggs in one basket in that one job.
Yeah.
That's not healthy, okay? So
Yeah.
all this stuff is going to be in the masterclass, okay? So again, the masterclass is November 8th and 9th. It's going to be via Zoom, okay?
Mhm.
And Rosché and I are going to have different portions. Dr. Rosché is going to talk more about the financial part. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the psychological and the practical in terms of getting a side hustle, starting your business, really dealing
Mhm.
with those money. Because I'm telling you, we all got some money narratives. We got some money drama in there. And we're going to talk
Mhm.
about the money drama, okay? And so again,
Yes.
the masterclass is for Black women. If you are ready to leave a toxic job, but you feel stuck, you don't know how to get out because of these financial concerns. You might think, I can't leave because I'm a single mother. I can't leave because whatever that might be, we're going to address all that mind trash and give you practical
Mhm.
tips, practical strategies. So by the time you leave the masterclass, you're going to have your
You're
financial
gonna be
plan.
ready.
You're going to be
Yes.
ready, right?
Yes.
And in fact, I was telling Dr. Rosché, we should call it on your marks, get ready, get set,
Let's
go, right?
go. Yes.
So this is like you getting ready. You're getting ready so you can go, and we want to support you in that process. Okay. So Dr. Rosché, in addition to the masterclass we talked about, can you share with the audience a little bit more about services that you offer and how people can
Mhm.
contact you? And then I'm going to go into the chat.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, like I said, I'm Dr. Rosché. My business is the Doctor of Rethinking, and my program is Rethinking Money University. Right, we're helping people to rethink their money. And so I do financial coaching. So as a financial psychologist, I'm of course going to cover money mindset, but I'm also going to give you practical skills on getting your finances in order, as well as like understanding how to get that business, started. And understanding the tax benefits of having all of that. So I'm going to do all of that, as well as I'm a life insurance agent. And so I'll help you guys regarding like getting that level of benefits and retirement set up for yourself. So those are the things that I actually do. You guys can follow me on Dr._Rosché. Better get to know Rosche like Oprah, right? So, you find that name out there, definitely start following me, but you definitely will get a little bit more intimacy and more connection if you join us on the masterclass on November 8th and 9th, where I can, be able to answer even more of your questions and figure out better ways for us to even work together in the future. But you guys will have, like, you guys are going to come out the masterclass with the blueprint of what to do.
You're going to be
You're
ready.
going to be ready.
Yes, you're
Yes.
gonna be ready so you can leave. Okay.
Yes.
And I just want to say, everybody watching this right now, you can see Dr. Roché's energy, right? Her energy is just so like it gets you hyped. Like, okay, yeah, I can do
Let's
this.
go.
So, but I was talking, I was like, girl, I don't know. Girl, you got this. You got this. Right?
All day long.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she can hype you up, but hype you up in a way that she knows what she's talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
She's talking about. She can help you in terms of finances, even in terms of, I would even say I learned a lot from you in terms of the different methods of paying off my credit.
Yeah.
Right?
Debt
That was
elimination. Yeah.
amazing, right?
Yeah.
You talked about like you can do things to increase your credit score by asking them
Yeah.
to raise your credit limit. And I was
Yeah.
like, what? Like all this stuff, right? So let me tell you, I'm a woman who did not look at money, which is terrible. That was terrible. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I got a check coming in the 5th every month. I'm gonna be okay, right? Not good. I went from
Yeah.
that to looking at my money and being good with my money and building a relationship with my money. Okay. So my hope is that you have that relationship too as a result of being in the masterclass. So I'm going to read the chat. And okay, so Tanisha, You can register for the masterclass. I have the information right here on the screen, and it will also be in the description section, okay? So as I mentioned before, the masterclass is November 8th and 9th. Okay, so it's 2 days, 90 minutes via Zoom. And you need to register for early registration if you want to save some money, okay? So if we're talking about money, you want to save some money. Early registration ends November 1st. So get your ticket before November 1st, okay? Okay, so I'm going to read the chat. Okay, I see people, Dr. Rosché, they were hyped up when you was talking about money, you know, having a relationship with money. So they start putting numbers in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
All right.
That's all right. It does feel like a toxic relationship, the trauma. Thanks for making that connection. Yes, it really does. And when you think about a toxic relationship, a toxic job, it gets in your head, right? And you start thinking there's no way out. And we're here to tell you there is a way out. And again, I always talk about I'm channeling my inner Harriet. Rosché with me, we channeling inner Harriet to get you out in terms of financially.
Yeah, we're helping you.
How to get out, right? The North Star, right?
Go to freedom.
Right.
Yes.
Get that freedom. Get that freedom. Okay. You didn't work this hard to get to this and have people disrespect you like this.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Yes, you have to leave that toxic environment to heal. Yes, right. So when I talk about the importance of Black women really pausing and pay attention to the signs that the job is harming you. So Dr. Rosché, you talked about being in that environment because toxic poison. So when you're in a poisonous environment, that impacts you physically and psychologically. And so when we don't recognize, and I call it lying to myself. I was lying to myself. It's
That's
not
all
that
it
bad. You're not gonna run me out of here. I'm gonna fight you. I'm strong. All that stuff.
Don't do it.
And you know what's so interesting? I heard a video today by my dear friend Colette Elizabeth, and it was talking about haters, right? And she said sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away. So we know as Black women, we've been told, no, you strong, you stick it out, right? Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is to walk away from something that's killing you, honestly. Okay. Okay. So when we think about the masterclass is helping you get out because the true healing from a toxic job does not happen until you leave. Okay. It's hard to heal. If that same environment is beating you down every day, you can't heal in that environment. Right. And then once you leave, that's when the healing journey starts. Now it doesn't end once you leave because I'm still healing. Okay. I've left over a year ago. I'm still healing. So the journey's ongoing, but I can tell you my life is so much better.
It's easier to heal, I'm sure.
Girl, I'm creating the life I want for myself. It's amazing. But I'm not going to that could be a whole nother video.
Right.
If we cannot attend the live class, can we buy the recorded masterclass? Absolutely.
Yes.
Buy the recording. So after the masterclass goes live, we'll be selling the replays, right? So you will have access to that. So if you want to have access to that, I will put information also in the description section about how to get that information. Okay, so good question. Let's see. Hi, everyone. I've been listening intently. I'm glad that you have. I'm on my continuous leave and going through therapy to start thinking clearly. Starting my exit plan with therapists, not going back. Yes. Congratulations. Congratulations. And I'm so glad you mentioned therapy because we are psychologists. So we believe in therapy. So sometimes you need that healing because being in a toxic job sometimes can be traumatic. So many things can happen. It's traumatic, gets in your head. And when we think about specific experiences, you might have experiences with workplace bullies. And October is bullying prevention month, right? So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that some of us have also experienced workplace bullying. Sometimes you might feel a sense of shame, even acknowledging that, because does that mean I'm not strong? No, that means that you have a deeply insecure person or people and you're working in a toxic system. So I want to reframe that. Okay? So congratulations. In nursing, we say plan for the patient's discharge on the first day of admission. Same way we should prepare for our exit on the first day of
Of
hire.
admission. Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love that. Yes. This live came at the perfect time. Thank you both. Thank you for tuning in. And I hope that we
Yes.
see
Thank
you in the
you.
masterclass as well. I was laid off from a toxic job, but it was amicable. I definitely
Mhm.
don't want to go back to the industry I worked in for too long. Do you have assistance for anyone who wants to take their business full time? Yes. Yes.
Yes. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about.
Yes.
That's probably even more of our preference is for you to go out and like have a business full time.
Yes. 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 So, in terms of multiple streams of income, but also know that you really can do very
Yeah.
well financially
Very well.
on your very
Dr.
well.
Kamani is killing it.
We can do very well. Dr. Rosché is too, right? We can do
Yes.
very well on your own. So again, we want you to know that that is possible. Even if people, and look at the source, who is telling you this? Who is telling you, girl, if you don't, if you gonna be homeless? Who is telling you to stay at that toxic job? Okay.
Yeah.
Look at who is telling you that. Why are they telling you that? But understand you ultimately need to make the best decision for yourself. If you know, like Dr. Rosché was saying, you know you coming home every day because on the way, on the way to work, you dreading it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we're going to talk about crying on their way to work, right? You get
Yeah.
to the door, you are masking all day at work because you're
Mm-hmm.
sick, right? And you know you got to watch yourself because they out to
Yeah.
get you for real, they are, right? So you like on guard, you leave the job, you still thinking about the job, even when you get home. So now the job is like spilling over into your personal life. And then it might look like challenges in your relationship, not really being fully present for your children. Okay. So be mindful of all these things and the impact this stuff has. And ask yourself, is being at this job worth it? If I can find other ways to get money.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying it's not worth it.
Not
Okay.
worth it. Yeah.
It's not. Okay. My Cobra will be $690 per month for a single person. Ridiculous. So we're
That
going to talk
is.
about that too, right?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't ready. I should have been ready, but I wasn't ready. That's okay. So now we're going to help us in the masterclass. Okay. So
Yes.
my hope is that things that I have learned through this journey, I'm going to share it with you. So
Mm-hmm.
you're prepared, you're ready, right? So
Yeah.
I tried Cobra and I was like, are you crazy? It was
Crazy.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. So I went and got my own health insurance for our family.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh?
And it's all good.
It's
Okay.
cheaper. Yeah.
My God give us free. Yes. Um, Cobra is ridiculous. Yes, it is. I've been paying Cobra for almost a year now, girl.
Oh, Jesus.
Girl.
Girl, we need some more cash flow. We need
Girl.
something, another option. Join our master class instead,
Yes.
right? You'll be able to pay that with like half that Cobra and we'll
Yes.
get you out of that.
Absolutely. Girl, that's a lot of money.
That
Um,
is.
I will get a broker until I move abroad, getting my business solidified. Excellent. 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 Okay. So, as I mentioned before, the information for the masterclass is right here on the screen. It'll also be in the description section. Get your ticket as soon as possible because November
Mhm.
1st, that's when early registration ends. Okay.
Yes.
After that point, the price is going to go up. Okay. So we're talking about money. We're trying to help you save some money. Okay.
Yes.
So get the early registration so you don't have to pay extra money. Okay. Hello. So glad I caught it live. I've been wondering about this topic. Yes. Okay.
Oh,
So
come on.
we're
Yeah.
right here, girl.
We're
We're
here
right
for
here.
you. Yeah.
Yes. I went to homecoming and saw someone from the toxic industry, and she reminded me why I didn't want to go back. She was asking, was I coming back? Every time I see anyone from the past work, my vibration lowers. Woo,
Oh my goodness.
that's deep. And
Yeah.
let me tell you, now I might hear something about that toxic job. So I'm still connected to a lot of people who are there. And again, the toxic job wasn't all bad. I've met some
Yeah.
fabulous people from there. I'm still connected to them. Whenever I hear about things about that toxic job, it makes me sink Like I started
Mm-hmm.
thinking like, oh God, because it really hasn't changed. Because when you
Yeah.
look at the system is toxic. And
Yeah.
so it was so interesting too, Dr. Rosché. I've had quite a few Black women from my former place of employment contact me like, girl, get me
Want
out.
to know
How
how?
do I get out of here? Right?
Yes.
How do I get out of here? So I'm here to share with you that Dr. Rosché and I are showing you a way out. We're
Mm-hmm.
showing you how to get your money together so you can leave that toxic job. Okay. But
Yeah.
it's up to you when you want to leave. Okay. So
Yeah.
if you want to leave 3 months, a year, 2 years, it's up to you. But no matter when you want to leave, you will
Good
create
plan.
a financial plan. Okay.
Yeah.
So important. So, everyone, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Give this video a thumbs up. Also, if you have not
Yeah.
already subscribed to my channel, please do so. Lifting as we climb consulting, wellness services. So, Dr. Rosché and I are joining forces together. And again, I am bringing you someone who helped me get out. Okay. And I don't think I could have gotten out in the way that I did without you, Dr. Rosché. So, thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank you so much. And again, I am in a much better financial position now. Now
right.
that I've left. It's amazing. Oh, it's another comment. The work dread is so real, even while working from home. Work longer, too much unrealistic stress and pressure. Yes. In fact,
Yeah.
the client talked to me about um, she said, I'm done with getting bullied from the laptop. Right. So even when she's
Mm.
working from home, she's still having to set that boundary, which is so important as well.
Yeah.
And so, what I'm saying to any Black women who can hear me, we don't want none of this for you, right?
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
want none of this for you. Our ancestors went through way too much for us to be here right now having this conversation, went through way too much for you to be
Yeah.
disrespected like you are on probably a daily
Yeah.
basis, right? And I want you to think about not only the signs that you might be seeing from yourself, but I also want you to keep in mind that when you're in a toxic job, and I've talked about this before, when you're in a toxic job, that toxicity, and Dr. Rosché talked about this, the toxicity and the stress, the cortisol, is
Mm-hmm.
bathing through your body, right?
Yeah.
And it can actually cause your organs to age faster. So that's called
Mm-hmm.
weathering, okay? So you
Mm-hmm.
might be a certain age, but your organs might be much older. And
Yeah.
we have seen in very recent times about the number of Black women, very high profile jobs, who have died. Okay. So I'm saying this to you out of true concern for you. Okay. That I want us to be
Mm-hmm.
mindful of the impact of stress to the point where we see the research.
Yeah.
I've done videos about this too.
Yeah.
The research notes that Black women, that we're now dying at earlier ages, and we're developing cardiovascular disease
Mm-hmm.
earlier. And that came from the American Heart Association. So they're talking about
Yes.
how issues of racism,
Yeah.
sexism, other issues like a toxic job can really cause
Uh-huh.
serious physical and psychological harm. Okay. So, oh my God. Oh my God. I'm
Yeah.
seeing this comment. I'm having cardiac issues right now. I'm so sorry to hear that. I
See,
hope that
come
you're
on,
getting,
baby.
girl, I hope
Yes,
that
we got to get you out.
you got to get out, right? Because you have to look at the
Yeah.
source. What is causing this stress? And I hope
Yep.
that you're getting the treatment and support that you need as well, right? Some more
Yes.
comments. I'm the only Black woman that holds a high position at my current job, and now actively planning to leave my job. They are
Yeah.
offended by me because my firm hold my firm, because you have the firm personal boundaries. Yes. And we have to
Mm-hmm.
be mindful of that, because sometimes they try to get in your business and they will use it against you. So I'm glad that you are
Yes.
mindful of that, about boundaries is so important. And sometimes what I think we've experienced too, Dr. Rosché, is even though we've been told as Black women, get that degree, get this, get that, right? We doing it. We doing it, right? Because Black
Yeah.
women, we are the most educated in
Mm-hmm.
the nation, right?
Yeah.
Also, data showing that Black women as entrepreneurs that we're the fastest growing group.
Fastest rising. Uh-huh.
So when we're in the workplace and we are coming in and we are just doing it, we are shining. Many
Yeah.
times people are intimidated by us because of their own deep-seated insecurity. So
Yeah.
what we're saying is that we don't want you around those people. That's
Mm-mm.
not healthy, right?
Yeah, my thing is like, I want to remind you that you are enough, right? And I
You are
think that a
more than
lot of us
enough.
like feel like our enoughness is like defined by our degrees and defined by the job that we have, and recognize like you are enough already. You know what I mean? There is a quote that says, if you don't live out your dreams, then somebody else will hire you to live out theirs,
Ooh,
and so we want to be in a position where we living out our dreams. That's what's
yes,
important. You know what I
yes,
mean? And so that's why we're like teaching you, like, can you live out your dreams? That's what we want you to do,
yes.
so you don't find yourself, giving all your all to people who don't even care about you. They're
Or
going to
who's
find
gonna
somebody
destroy
else in the
you,
next
trying to
couple of
hurt you.
months.
Yeah, trying to
Yeah.
hurt you. Right? It's not worth it.
Yeah.
And then I think about too, like when you talk about, we're worthy, we're more than enough, right? And
Yeah.
what happens is I think for many times we give our power away because we're trying to get validation from
Mm-hmm.
people who are trying to hurt us. It doesn't make sense. Don't seek validation from these people. They're not even worthy. They're not
No.
worthy to say that you're
Yes.
worthy. No.
Yes.
No,
Uh-huh.
not at all. Not at all. And
Yeah.
so the importance of us remembering our worth, and as you said, Dr. Rosché, that we recognize that our degrees, our jobs, that is not who we are. That is what we
Mm-hmm.
accomplish. That's a job we have to make money. Stephanie Perry talks about this all the time about a job is a means to an end. It's for you to
Yes.
have money, okay? If the job is harming you, it is not a good job. So that's a quote from Stephanie
Yeah.
Perry. If you don't watch Stephanie Perry, you need to watch her. And Dr. Rosché and I are
Well,
going to be at her channel
on Saturday.
this Saturday. Okay, so tune in on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Or watch the replay on Stephanie Perry. Dr. Rosché and I are going to be on there talking about the masterclass and talking about options for Black women because I want Black women to know we have options. Okay. Let me see. I'm not able to click the link. Please post or email me. Okay, so I will send that to you. And
Yeah.
also,
Can you add the link, Marissa, in the chat? I don't know if she's able to do that.
Let me see. Yeah, it's in the chat. It's in the chat. So
Okay.
I will
Maybe add it one more time.
Yeah. And Marissa, can you email her as well to send her the link? Okay. It says touchy from stress. I'm not quite sure I understand that. But
I think she means tacky, like tachycardia, which if I'm understanding you correctly, but I think that's what she
the same
means.
person who said about the heart issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that stress
Yeah.
erode
So tachycardia is like, your heart racing and palpitating, heart palpitation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah,
right.
right.
It's bad for you, right? And so these stress-related symptoms we might start experiencing. So those stress-related symptoms in terms of how we're feeling, we talked about also weathering. And also there might be other signs. Like for me, Dr. Rosché, my hair start falling out.
That's a huge sign. That's stress. Yeah.
Right? Stress. And then I started gaining a lot lot of weight because I was like, okay,
I told you cortisol increases belly fat, y'all.
Girl. And all that like emotional eating and then trying to make myself feel better.
You need sugar to make you feel better. I understand.
Not good. Okay. So they're saying to you, please get support and that they care for you in the community, talking about the cardiac issues. That's scary to know. That's my main reason I went on leave. With me, I'm not in a toxic job right now, but my last job was toxic and I quit with no new job on site. Boom. Right? Boom. And I hope that Black women are able to see if it is that bad, you need to preserve yourself first. Okay. And you will be okay. If you were able to get this job, what makes you think you won't be able to get another job? Okay. You're not going to quit a job and just be.
Baby, you marketable.
Right. It's just going to come. Right. Oh, look at this. I went from pet to threat. Wow. So that's interesting.
Ooh,
so the cardiac issues in relation to the pushback that you experienced with Pets a Threat.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to just share for everyone about Pets a Threat if you don't know what that is. So Pets a Threat was created by 3 Black women researchers, Dr. Juanita Johnson Bailey,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Keisha Thomas, Dr. Rosemary Phelps. I've had them on some of my previous panels. So Pets a Threat deals with when a Black woman is brought into the workplace and she is shining, she is doing it, right? Like, oh, Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Rosché, we love you. Oh, you're so smart. We love you so much, right? So they treat Dr. Rosché like the pet. However, when Dr. Rosché starts shining brighter than them, then it switches, right? So she's seen and treated like a pet. And so many of us, I can definitely say that happened to me. Many of us can relate to this, okay? The Pet's a Threat, right? I think many of us have experienced it, but didn't have a name for it, right? So now we know there's a name for it, right? I just quit a high-paying job, and I was the only Black woman. Woo! Congratulations for leaving, girl.
Yes, go ahead with the freedom.
And that workplace. Yes, congratulations. Let me say this too, Dr. Rosché, because there's going to be some naysayer who's going to misconstrue what we said, right? So we are celebrating these Black women for leaving toxic jobs. We are not saying, girl, just money just going to come to you. You don't need to work. That is not what we're saying. What we're saying is there's other ways to make money. You can make it either at a job, side hustle, or both, okay? Please, no one think that we are saying to you, Black women quit and money just gonna come to you, gonna be good. No, that's not what we're saying, okay?
That's what we talking about, creating a plan so you can leave and that you can be your better self and your higher self, right? Your greater self. That's what we want you to be.
Yes. And we're trying to give you the resource so that you can leave with the masterclass, right? Okay. I will call off tomorrow so I can finish my internship project and rest. Good. Pay attention to your body. Pay attention to rest. It's so important for us as Black women to honor ourselves. I remember in Exodus Summit, Octavia Rahim talked about the importance of Black women giving ourselves permission to rest, and that rest is the key to freedom. Okay, I want us to remember that. Preach. I don't let jobs stress me out. Good. I'm happy to hear that. Oh, look at this. We got a super sticker. Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you, Kelsey.
And I just want to tell the audience, any super stickers, any super chats, any donations that we're receiving will go to help a Black woman who's not able to afford the masterclass to be able to access the masterclass. So thank you so much, Kelsey. Okay. So we want to help all Black women to leave. And if you're in the United States, you still can access the masterclass. So I've had Black women reach out to me from the UK, different countries in Africa, everywhere. Like, how do we access this? You can still access it. You may not be able to get the live, depending on the time zone, unless you want to get up at a certain time, but you could still get the replay. Okay. So it's for all Black women. I don't care where you live. I'm the only Black woman on my team. It's difficult doing more work and trying to prove. It's exhausting trying to perform when I'm doing a job of another person. See? It's like that's another sign, right? So for me, when I was at that toxic job, I had about 10,000 signs, right? So for you, it might be part of the pathway in terms of preparing yourself to leave. So leaving a job, even a toxic job, is not easy. It takes a lot of courage. And so sometimes we have to remind ourselves of what the signs are. So maybe you want to write down the signs. Maybe you want to tell a trusted friend, not at the job. Okay. Maybe you want to tell them about what's happening with you so they can remind you, girl, remember when you told me blah, 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 like this stuff keeps happening to you. So in terms of reality testing, but people will try to exploit our labor. They will try to do it because they've done it since we've been to this country. And in fact, all around the world. Okay. So they will try to exploit our labor. Left 2 weeks ago. I was bringing that mess home and working 10 to 12 hours. I remember my mom saying, work don't die. That made leaving easier. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The work will be there, right? But you may not be there because of the stress of the job, right? So The job doesn't define who you are. It doesn't define your life. They don't own you. They don't own your personal life, right? So boundaries, okay, it's very important. And a job that's trying to make you overwork, again, that's not the job for you, okay? Okay, so we're supporting one another in the chat. They said we should be friends. Yes, connect. This is amazing. I love this. Saying congratulations in terms of leaving your job.
Yay.
I'm working 10 to 12 hours with no thanks. Pets and threat. Yes, pets and threat. Check it out. Okay. So again, on my previous videos, I have videos talking about pets and threat. And I have two of the authors of Pets of Threat on those videos. And so maybe in the chat, maybe Marissa, if you can put the playlist for Pets of Threat so people can see it. I have low tolerance, purchasing your masterclass for added support. Yay! Thank you.
Thank you,
ladies. The money will be well worth it, girl. It surely will. It surely will. Let's see. And if we cannot, okay, so we talked about that, right? So again, if you cannot attend the masterclass live, you can have access to the replays, okay? So we will put information about accessing the replay after the live. So the live is November 8th and 9th. Remember to purchase the masterclass before November 1st so you get access to the early registration, save some money. And I see this also, and sometimes you think you're going crazy, but it's likely gaslighting that is occurring. Absolutely.
Oh, gaslighting.
So, yes. So I know I've talked about this. Marissa Price has talked about this on her YouTube channel about self-gaslighting, because what's happening in that environment, the environment is already gaslighting you, right? They're already gaslighting you. And so what can happen many times is that you start internalizing what's happening, right? Like, was that me? Did I do something? Maybe I'm not. I don't know. So be mindful of that. That's another sign that they have gotten into your head and they are trying to make you think less of yourself. Okay. We reject that. Okay. So we're signing off. Again, get your ticket to the masterclass. Early registration ends November 1st. So get your money right so you can leave that toxic job. Okay. So by the time you leave the masterclass, you will have a financial plan. You will have so many resources in terms of looking at what is your next step and to get ready. Check out your benefits, see how you can get your own benefits, look at your insurance rollover, all these things, okay? So again, that information is on the screen. It will also be in the description section. Give this video a thumbs up. If you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do so. Lifting as we climb consulting, wellness services. And my ask is, Black women, as you're watching this video, share this video with at least two other Black women, okay? Okay, so everyone, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the masterclass, okay? And remember,
excited to see you guys.
Yes. And we will be on Stephanie Perry's channel this Saturday, so tune into that as well. Okay, see you later. Bye.